audio diary account is my interpretation of the chronological story behind each user of the audio diary. It is not factual. I believe that the audio diaries were written in a way so there would be multiple valid ways of interpreting them.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Town Cape, and today I'm going to present my interpretation of the audio diary account of Yi Suchong. Ever since he was a boy, Suchong was a gifted student in science. He was the best student in his college, he did his own research, and documented his observations in a diary. Sometimes he even managed to spot his professor making a mistake. However, whenever Suchong tried to correct him, he was rewarded with anger. His professor didn't like a student correcting him, even if the student was right. His professor believed that a young man's intuition was meaningless because young people were always supposed to have low intelligence. He always told Suchong this after Suchong attempted to correct him. Suchong's professor had no idea how his harsh words would impact Suchong for the rest of his life. Even as a student, Suchong had his pride as a scientist. He wanted to be smart, he wanted to be acknowledged. However, his professor showed him nothing but dissent. Suchong wished that he would grow up faster so his professor would acknowledge him, but that didn't happen. All Suchong could do was continue his research in the hopes that his professor would one day acknowledge him. Soon, Suchong began to change the way he reported his research in his diary. Since what the professor said shook him, he began to change his entries from first person into third person. Suchong noted that when he wrote, "Suchong believes that the results of this experiment are null," it sounded more objective than when he wrote, "I believe the results of this experiment are null." Suchong liked this form of communication so much that he soon began to adopt it into all aspects of his life. By the time Suchong had become a middle-aged man, World War II had broken out in Korea. His college professor was killed due to collateral damage. Suchong found himself saddened by his death because he never got a chance to prove himself. But he wasn't just a little sad, he was really sad. He was depressed. Soon Suchong found that he was comforting himself by using opium. However, when the Japanese continued their attacks, Suchong soon found himself at their gunpoint. He was only able to survive because he promised to give opium to the Japanese in exchange for his life. After the war ended, Suchong was unsure of what to do with his life. His professor was dead, so now what? What could he do now? The only thing that sprung to Suchong's mind was his desire to continue his quest for science. He wanted to continue advancing science. He needed a place where he could let out all his passions. He needed Rapture. After arriving at Rapture, Suchong was hired by Fontaine, the ringleader of an underground smuggling operation. Fontaine promised to fund Suchong as long as Suchong would provide his company, Fontaine Futuristics, with innovative technology. Not too long later, Fontaine told Suchong that he had found him a partner with a vision that could spiral Fontaine Futuristics to the top of the great chain of Rapture. This partner was a young lady named Tenenbaum. When Suchong first saw her, he was reluctant to work with her. At first, he wasn't sure why he was so repelled by her, but he soon found out. He didn't like young people. Suchong had taken his professor's word to heart so bad that he found that he had also inherited his professor's personality. Fontaine sensed his aversion, so he decided to make Suchong rethink his decision by showing him what Tenenbaum was planning on researching. Sea slugs. But not just any sea slugs. These sea slugs contained a substance that could make miracles happen. This substance was Adam. Despite any grudges that Suchong had against young people, he knew that he couldn't throw away such a unique offer. So Suchong began working with Tenenbaum. However, he still didn't treat her with great respect. It didn't help when she revealed her past to him. Tenenbaum told Suchong of how she was the young genius of a Nazi camp. This caused Suchong to feel a bit jealous of Tenenbaum because his genius was never recognized at a young age. However, Suchong could still see why Fontaine wanted him to work with her.
That's quite a little monster Fontaine's dug up. When she does speak, which is almost never, her accent is thick and grating. Her hair is filthy and she seems to wear the same mustard-stained jumper day after day. But I've got to hand it to Frank. Tenenbaum is the old-timer diamond in the rough. No formal training, no experience, but put her in front of a gene sequence and she's Mozart at the harpsichord.
Soon, Suchong began to develop his own plasmids and began testing them on people.
Clinical trial lot 44, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Subject age white male, one Roland Wallace. Can you hear me, Mr. Wallace?
Yes, sir, Mr. Suchong, sir.
Very well. Right, I'm introducing Lot 44 now. We've codenamed the Lot 44 Enrage because of its tendency to... Nurse? Hold him down! Nurse!
Suchong found that he was so interested with the Atom program that he almost never ran out of ideas for plasmids.
Clinical trial Lot 23, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Work on telekinesis plasmid proceeding well. Lifting objects at distance presents no problem. Moving objects through space, no problem. Cannot stop speeding bullet, but can catch and throw faster moving object. Problem not with plasmid. Problem with reaction time. Suchong just get new idea for plasmid.
However, Suchong also noticed that despite introducing him to the substance, Tenenbaum wasn't that interested in being creative with Atom.
Tenenbaum. Sometimes I pity the little freak. Such a tiny imagination. Content to sit there with the tanks of Atom tweaking and optimizing. I need to create. Atom is a canvas of a genetic modification, but plasmids are the paint.
Tenenbaum was more interested in extracting Atom than being creative with it. She spent ages trying to find ways to increase the production of Atom. Eventually, she settled on the Little Sister program. When she first introduced it to Suchong, he wasn't pleased. Working with a young lady was bad enough, but now he had to work with children? Suchong was infuriated. However, he still recognized that they were the most effective means of mass-producing Atom, so he very reluctantly agreed to aid Tenenbaum's Little Sister program. By this point, Suchong was becoming fed up with working with Fontaine. He came to Rapture so he could make mature scientific discoveries. Now he was working with children. Even worse was what Fontaine told Suchong a couple of days later. He said that he wanted Suchong to engineer a baby for him. When Suchong received this order, he pulled his hair out of his head. He told Fontaine that he had enough. He told him that he didn't want to spend the rest of his life working on children. The moment he was done talking, he wished he hadn't opened his mouth. Fontaine exploded on him. Suchong was surprised by just how terrifying Fontaine could be. After Fontaine calmed down, he told Suchong that this time it was going to be different. The child he was going to engineer wouldn't be some regular child. He was going to be a super soldier that Suchong was going to quickly raise into an adult. That sounded promising to Suchong, so he willingly agrees to raise the child named Jack. Jack was biologically Ryan's child, and Fontaine decided to engineer him because he could sense that his time as a businessman was coming to an end. Ryan had begun to suspect that he was in league with smugglers and had his head of security Sullivan begin investigating him. That's why Fontaine had Suchong engineer Jack. He wanted to use Jack as an ace in the hole if he ever ended up between Ryan's fingers. In order to carry out Fontaine's plans, Suchong needed to get Jack to meet a couple of requirements. 1. He had to mentally condition Jack so he would follow any order that Suchong gave when he used the command phrase.
Did you that your puppy? She's very pretty.
Thank you, Papa Suchong.
Break her neck for me.
What?
Break that sweet puppy's neck.
No, please.
Break that puppy's neck. Would you kindly?
No. No.
Very good.
2. Suchong had to rapidly age him.
Advanced deployment, Lot 111, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Baby is now a year old, weighs 58 pounds, and possesses gross musculature of a fit 19-year-old. The results are disappointing, but within expected tolerances.
However, that wasn't Suchong's favorite part of raising Jack. His favorite was when Fontaine asked him to put his research of Atom to good use by rewriting Jack's memories.
All those years, we thought we were making progress with our Skinner boxes and our electric shocks. What a waste of time. Until Atom, you could no more domesticate a child than a boa constrictor. Fontaine gives Suchong history for child that he wants to imprint into child's head. Kid, not a person. A jukebox, ready to play whatever tune Fontaine wants to hear.
After the brainwashing was done and the rewriting was done, Suchong had Jack sent up to the surface of the batosphere. However, this wasn't the last that he would hear of him.
Fontaine's become some kind of boogeyman in Rapture. That myth gives him power. But peel back flim flam and a humbug, he's just another conman. And like all conmen, he worries he'll end up on the wrong side of grift. That's why he commissioned Lot 192, the antidote to the mental control plasmid. Fontaine said I better not tell anybody about the antidote, not even Tenenbaum. And Suchong is inclined to listen.
Before sending Jack away, Fontaine and Suchong created a cure to his mind control. He did this because he didn't want Jack to be used against him in case he fell into enemy hands. Anyway, after a couple of months, Sullivan had the information necessary to convict Fontaine. He went down to get him and a gunfight ensued. Sullivan emerged the victor and it looked like that Fontaine had finally been killed. But what would happen with Fontaine Futuristics? Would it go to its next legal owner? Suchong worked there under Fontaine, so he was wondering what would become of his job. Who would his next employer be? Even Suchong was surprised when he finally found out. Ryan had Fontaine Futuristics nationalized. He owned it. He wanted to continue the Atom business. He wanted to continue the Little Sister program. But there was one problem. A problem that only Suchong could solve.
Fontaine is dead. Bad for Fontaine. Good for Suchong. Play hard to get for a bit. Then Mr. Ryan get hungry for me. Tenenbaum gone, Fontaine gone. Suchong only one who know all about Little Sisters. Like I said, it's very good for Suchong.
Soon Suchong was back working in his lab in the Ryan Industries' own Fontaine Futuristics. However, that wasn't the only thing that had changed. Fontaine Futuristics used to be a quiet, peaceful place, but soon there was a war right outside its doorstep.
War, a terrible thing. Japanese kill every man in my city, except for Suchong. Suchong have opium. Very good opium. This war, terrible thing too, but not for Suchong. Everyone's scared now. Everyone need Adam. More than Little Sisters can make. Good news is war makes lots of corpses. Suchong knows a way to recycle Adam from corpses, but can't send a Little Sister out to street unprotected. Suchong must think on this.
This diary highlighted why Suchong didn't see Adam as a bad thing despite the negative side effects. It was because addictive substances had always helped him out throughout his life. Similarly to how opium had helped him in World War II, Adam was helping him in the Rapture Civil War. Anyway, Suchong had to continue his work while fending off the rebel attacks. However, after figuring out how to safeguard the Little Sisters, he was as confident as ever.
Ryan sent over extra munitions. He must suspect trouble. I will lock them up near the Protector Labs and set the code to 1921. I don't expect we'll ever be needing them though. Once Big Daddy is ready, nobody cross the Big Daddy.
So Suchong had decided on Big Daddies as the guardians of Little Sisters. Suchong disliked young people, so it made sense that when he had to design another brainwashed individual, it happened to be an adult. That's why he didn't call the Protector Big Brother or Big Sister. Suchong wanted to ensure that the Protector was an adult, in name just as much as identity. It also makes sure that the Protector was an adult male. A big mommy isn't something that Suchong would have liked. I mean, Suchong watched as Tenenbaum gradually lost sight of her goal over time. This was due to a maternal instinct that had awakened as she got older. Suchong thought that if he had made a maternal protector, then they would have proved troublesome due to the maternal instinct as well. Since the paternal instinct wasn't as strong as its female counterpart, Suchong decided to ensure that all the protectors were adult males. Soon, Suchong had the Big Daddy program up and running, but there was still one problem.
Big Daddy make a terrible stink. Very smelly. Maybe something can be done, but the Little Sisters seem to like order. Now we have to find the recruits. You become Big Daddy, it's a one-way street. But Ryan says don't worry. Recruits will be no problem. That Ryan. He's a good guy.
By this point, Suchong was really beginning to grow fond of Ryan. Under Fontaine, Suchong was stuck working with children, but under Ryan, he finally got to work with adults. He finally got to practice science in the way he always wanted. He decided to repay Ryan by helping him out with the war. He suggested that they introduce mental suggestion inducing pheromones in the commercial plasmid lines in the hopes that they could eventually gain control over all the splicers. Ryan was hesitant, but eventually agreed. Suchong was happy to help. However, Suchong's positive sentiments wouldn't last forever. After the Civil War heated up, Suchong's appreciation of Ryan began to diminish.
God damn it! The big daddy boots need to be shipped here, not the damn library. What kind of idiot is Ryan hiring nowadays? This kind of bullshit never happened on the Fontaine.
Since Suchong's office was behind the line of fire, Ryan's employees were scared of shipping parts directly to him. Instead, they left it in the library. However, Suchong still found this unacceptable. As his patience withered, Suchong began to slowly lose the patience he used to have with thinking scientifically.
Initial deployment, Vita Chamber. Client Ryan Industries, stage 1 is complete. Sinclair and Alexander tried to explain the science to me, but Suchong does not believe them. They keep saying plasmid reconstruction this and quantum entanglement that, and then poof, dead people come back to life. Bullshit! Of course, Ryan will only allow it to be tuned to his genetic frequencies for the testing.
It wasn't long until Suchong found himself insulting Ryan on a regular basis.
Fontaine, scary son of a bitch. But Ryan, cheap son of a bitch. You can no reuse protector suit. Take a man, graft the skin and organs straight into suit. Otherwise, your suit not work. Ryan say Big Daddy too expensive. Ryan can go suck an egg.
Working conditions had become so bad that Suchong soon wondered if it was even worth continuing to work under Ryan. He wondered if it would have been worthwhile for him to join Atlas. Whatever the answer was, Suchong never found out, because it was someone else that decided his fate. Someone he didn't expect.
Clinical trial protector system, Plasmid lot 255. Dr. Suchong, client Ryan Industries. Very frustrating day. I can't seem to get the damn big daddies to imprint on the little brats. The protection bond is just not forming.
Papa Suchong?
Get away. Maybe if I modify the genetic sequence. Shush! Sure. The sequence to allow for... Get away, you filthy little shit! What? What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
So it wasn't the war that killed Suchong, it wasn't Ryan, it wasn't even really the big daddy, it was the little sisters. By attempting to play with Suchong, the little sisters got him into an angry fit, and this caused him to lash out at them, which subsequently caused the big daddy to attack and kill him. The little sisters had indirectly killed him. Throughout much of his life, Suchong had mistreated children, so it was only fitting for his life to meet its end at the hands of children. Anyway, that'll be the end of the audio diary account of Yi Suchong. Thank you everyone for watching. Next time I'll be presenting the audio diary account of J.S. Steinman. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.